thanks for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but a means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own knitting project. If you're like me and really enjoy having something on while you work, sometimes the content you like is very visually engaging and you're several hours in and haven't gotten nearly as far along in your project as you would have liked to. So that's where I come in. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. I know it's been forever. I think I've lost a few subs, so sorry if you had to leave. I totally understand. But if you're still sticking around, thank you so much. I know it's been like, what, 4 or 5 months? Just about. Life has happened. Work was really busy, which doesn't sound so unusual for me, but considering that I moved to a new state to have a little bit more relief from my job has been quite the unexpected. Of course, the grass is always greener on the other side, but don't get me wrong, my work has been doing well, but we had a lot of people leaving and some very extreme short-staffedness, and my schedule had to change to compensate for that, and it was just craziness. And plus, just kind of getting into the groove of getting settled, I thought I was okay, but I was not. So I'm thinking now for 2022 that I will have a little bit more of a rhythm. I won't necessarily be able to promise that I'll be here as often as I had originally dreamt, but you'll see me more often than months at a time, that's for sure. My goal this year, as you may know from previous videos, if you've watched a few of my other ones, I don't like to set up New Year's resolutions for myself because I really feel like I have a hard time committing to like a specific resolution, like I need to have something accomplished. So I try to trick myself with wording and other phrases to kind of coax my body into accepting like a new norm or a new habit. And I haven't been as successful as I would hope to be for 2021. But 2021, a previous coworker of mine said that she saw on Twitter that somebody had quoted, like, I didn't know 2020 was a trilogy, which honestly, I think that's pretty accurate. But we're only a few days in. Today is January 3rd at the time of filming, so I'll probably be editing this later through the week and uploading probably towards the weekend. So it'll be a little bit before you see me actually on YouTube, but I'm so happy to be actually recording today. But yes, lots of things happened, and if you remember, if you're a continuing viewer, I had earlier in 2021, and like at the end of 2020 / the beginning of 2021, I had a very ambitious goal to have this knitting calendar for 2021, as you can see at the date here, and I was not successful. You see, before I moved, I only filled up to July, and this was to help me get a schedule in what projects I was going to work on for the rest of the year. But then I got offered an amazing job. I had to find housing, pack, move, get settled, get into the groove of a new environment, and all of that threw a big wrench. I don't even know if a wrench would be adequate, like more of a sledgehammer into my plans for knitting. So here we are, almost a year later from when I first developed this calendar, and it's a bust. It was pretty, but it's awfully useless to me. However, I did want to come on here today to explain and celebrate some wins I did have for 2021, which were that I pretty much got all of my holiday knitting done. Those things that I had planned out, not necessarily the same projects, but those things that I had planned out to make for my family, I was able to get done, except one project that I have that I'm currently working on. This is it's just a 2x2 rib knit beanie for my brother. My brother is currently in the Air Force Reserves. He is stationed in Qatar. At the time of filming, he is scheduled to be back stateside in the US this month at some point. We're not too sure when. He said soonish, but plans change all the time depending on what's needed of him. But the goal is that he will be back in the States in January. And because he wasn't home for Christmas, and my family is big on the holidays. They love Christmas. That was my point of making my knitting projects, were for Christmas gifts. And since he wasn't home with my family, with all of the other craziness that I had to try to schedule for, I was actually a little bit relieved that he wasn't there, because it gave me time to work on his project after the fact, because I was on such a tight deadline with the move, kind of throwing that sledgehammer, that jackhammer, that backhoe into my project planning, that I had to really rearrange a lot of the things I was doing and set some things aside that I was going to do for myself, just to make sure that my holiday knitting was done. So you're going to see some pictures up. I left my phone in the other room, so I can't look at them with you, but if my memory doesn't fool me, we're just going to talk about all of the things, and depending on what picture you see at what time I'm talking, it might not make quite that much sense until you see the other photo, perhaps. So I made, in order of project start, I made a very nice sock weight yarn scarf for my cousin's boyfriend. Now that he is kind of fully integrated into the family, this 2021 was the Christmas year that I'm like, okay, he's been around a while. I think they're pretty serious. I can commit to making this person a handmade item for holiday. And so I made him a scarf. It was sock weight yarn. It was just a tube, one long tube, 100 stitches cast on. Super easy project, but very long. Literally the length of the project and the time it took. I started that very early on when I moved here and was doing it during the summer. Decided to take a break and work on some other things, decided not to knit at all, and had to pick that up and quickly just crank it out as fast as I could to get it done in time, because I knew it was going to take the longest because of how much time it takes me to knit scarves, and because it's a very thin yarn, I knew it was going to take a long time for that as well, and I just had to muscle through that one. So it took a while, got it done though. I think the next project that I worked on was oh no, actually, that wasn't the first one. I was lucky and I got through 2 pairs of socks before the move. Both DK weight. I did the Hufflepuff scheme for my brother's fiance, so that was like the gray and yellow and white sock. I did a lace front for that one, that was nice, and the other one was an orange, like creamsicle-y looking one for my aunt, because orange is her favorite color, and my brother's fiance's favorite color is also orange. A couple years back I made her a very nice 1-row scarf, and that turned out very well. It's a very nice unisex, gender neutral, which should be what it's called, gender neutral, not unisex, because it's like your sex doesn't determine your gender. But anywho, a very nice multi-gender, gender neutral scarf for her, and she liked that a lot. And so I just kind of like put a back burner on any more orange themed things for her, and did the socks and the Hufflepuff because Ravenswood Fiber Co. had a very nice limited run of Harry Potter themed yarns, and I picked up 2 hanks of the Hufflepuff because another friend of mine did the Pottermore quiz back in the day and said she was Hufflepuff. I did it. I'm Ravenclaw, so I got the blue, which kind of works out because blue is one of my favorite color schemes or colorways, and did that. And so yes, Hufflepuff for my brother's fiance, the orange creamsicle one for my aunt. So those were the 2 sets of socks that I did before I even moved to my new place. And then I did the scarf when I got here. After starting the scarf, I did 2 quick knits of a cat hat and a cat cowl for my cousin's daughter. She's a smaller young lady, so I did like the smaller size, but because it's stretchy, I think it'd be more like a fitted skull cap on her by now if she's grown any since I started that one. And the cowl's just like whatever, you can fit that over your head just fine, and it'll just be a little bit like loose around the neck, but not like too billowy like if you had an infinity scarf and looped it around a couple times. What else did I do? so I started working on fingerless gloves for my cousin, and I can't remember what I was going to make for her originally. Oh, mittens. I was gonna do mittens, but then I'm like, why? When was she ever gonna use mittens? So I decided to test out the fingerless glove pattern on her with the hopes of doing it again for her son. However, because it's so sad, I got through one whole fingerless glove and cast on and got through the hand shaping of the second. But then when I got to the finger one, I realized like how far along in the time I was, and I was like, ooh, this is not gonna work for me. I need to find another project. So I ended up going with gauntlets, which is just like a thumb hole and open where the fingers stick through. So I scrapped that. I still have the other part just as a whip, and hopefully I'll pick it up again because I do just want to finish that off so I can actually start using that yarn for something else. And so that'll be another video talking about that. And so I did the gauntlets for her. After that, I started on a sock head hat for my cousin's son instead of the fingerless gloves, because I figured a hat should be pretty easy. Even though it was sock weight yarn, I used the rest of the oh, it's such a beautiful yarn. I made it, if you guys watch my holiday knitting video for the 2020, I made him socks that were blue, and they were this beautiful yarn, so soft. It kind of does break pretty easily, but it was a very nice yarn, so I had enough left over to make the hat, and I only had just enough. And you can see there's a yellow part at the very, very top of the crown, and so I threw in some yellow yarn because I literally ran out of enough to finish that hat with just all that blue, which is so great because now I had a whole skein out of the way. And did that, and after his hat I did my uncle's hat, which is just that gray hat that has like the gradient of grays up to the top, and he really likes that hat. So that was the skater beanie hat from the Not Just Socks pattern book that we looked over before. If you all watch my perusing patterns playlists, I can't remember where it fell in line with that one, but I have a whole playlist of looking through catalogs and pattern books that I have that I've either received in the mail, as donated, or as purchased, or as gifts from friends and family. So I went through that Not Just Socks book and was picking out some things that I could do for the holidays, and that one was like on my mind because it seemed easy enough. And so I'm actually doing that skater beanie for my brother. So it's just a 2x2 rib all the way up until you get to, I think it's like 8.5 length, and then you just start shaping the crown. Easy peasy. But I'm actually using the buttercream yarn. I'm trying to think. I left the label in the living room, but this buttercream yarn that I got at Joann's, I think. It's like some kind of blend. It's very nice. It's not scratchy at all. And I have some beautiful hand-dyed yarn from Die Hard Yarns, which is a local yarn shop in Illinois that I discovered and follow them on Instagram, and they're great. And so I bought this pretty yellow yarn from them. It's just a regular superwash sock weight, and I thought doing them double kind of reminds me of I could call it the Cheeto hat. It kind of reminds me of ketchup and mustard when they're mixed together too, because you have like that orangey bit and that yellow of the mustard peeking through. But I'll let him decide what he wants to call it, but I will give him like the Cheeto dust hat or something like that, just to inspire him of what he wants to think of this hat as. But it's just a nice little mottled. I'm doing them two-stranded, so it just kind of breaks up the hat a little bit. I didn't want to do just another solid, and I also didn't do another gradient one with the rest of the yarn that I used for my uncle's hat, just because he already has one, so I didn't want to make two hats exactly the same this year, and it's easy enough to use a little bit of that extra yarn that I had from my brother's fiance's hat previously. So that is where we are with those projects. It was a mad dash. I feel like I'm always against the wire. I think last year I actually was a lot better, but last year I also didn't have to move, and I got to take vacation days, which I haven't really had a chance to do in 2021 because of the move and getting used to my job and the way that the lack of people around were. I just haven't been able to take like any vacation days other than the ones that are given to me by my job, like Thanksgiving and winter, you know, Christmas Eve, all that, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. That's why I'm off today, because it's an observance of New Year's, so I go back on tomorrow, Tuesday. So yeah, it's just been weird. And usually I would have days where I just dedicate to staying at home, maybe doing some housework, doing some knitting, just vegging out. And I didn't really get to do that this year, so you're going to see another video from me in a minute where I talk about what I want 2022 to look like. But until then, thanks so much. If you're still subscribed, thank you. I know it's been a long time. I had a lot of energy at the very beginning, and then life just happened. So a lot of my hopes and dreams for this channel really got squashed in the last year, and just like getting my energy level up to find time to do this was a challenge. So I was like, you know what, I have no new projects to show you guys. I'm just gonna work through what I need to get done, and then I'll talk about them after. So that's where we are. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.